So I recently made a video talking all about the Chase Freedom Flex card and how I maximized it to the point where I'm getting almost 13.5 points per dollar spent on certain categories, and you guys wanted to know what it was like in terms of using it in the full trifecta, so that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. We're going to talk about how I maximize the Chase trifecta without even really thinking about it and making it overcomplicated to the point where anybody can do this as long as they have these three cards. So without further ado, let's talk about maximizing the Chase trifecta, what you need, who should do it, and how to really maximize this to the point where you're not thinking about it and earning those 13.5 points per dollar spent. Let's get into it. So the plan of this video is to show you guys how the trifecta works for me and works very easily, holistically across all of its categories, how to stack some points, again, and I'm going to stay inside of the ecosystem because I don't want to go into every single card and go into all the nooks and crannies and all the sign-up bonuses and the spend categories and things like that because there's a lot of overlap to begin with, and then ultimately you can also stack outside of the Chase trifecta to even maximize it further, but I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible so anybody can just pick these three cards up and start earning and maximizing without overthinking it after the fact. So to go really basic in terms of what the Chase trifecta is, it's basically Chase's three cards that you use in the ecosystem that really helps maximize as many categories as possible. And it starts with the Chase Freedom Flex and the Chase Freedom Unlimited cards. These are zero-fee cards that do earn you Chase Ultimate Reward points, but they aren't advertised as cashback cards because you do need either the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve card to turn these into point-earning cards to then redeem them and transfer them out to partners or use it through the travel portal. So definitely keep that in mind, and that is what makes it the trifecta. So you will need, like I mentioned, the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited, and what's interesting about these cards, and this is probably one of the few faults of the ecosystem, is that they do have a lot of overlapping categories. For instance, both of these are going to earn you 5x back on all purchases booked through the Chase Travel Portal. You're also going to get 3x back on all dining, whether it is takeout or in person, and then also 3x back on all drugstores, and this is for both of these cards. So the only difference between these two cards is that the unlimited version is the best catch-all card, which is what I use for categories that are not kind of mentioned here because it gives you 1.5x on everything, hence the unlimited name. And then you have the Chase Freedom Flex, which gives you those rotating quarterly categories and giving you 5x back up to $1,500 to spend, giving you an additional 7,500 Chase Ultimate Reward points per quarter if you are able to maximize it. And these quarterly categories, they rotate, hence the name. So normally in quarter one, it's groceries and Amazon. Right now in quarter four, it's things like McDonald's as well as anything through PayPal, which is going to be helpful when it comes to buying things for Christmas and the holidays and things like that. So those are the two zero-fee annual cards. The only major difference you need to understand is that the unlimited card is 1.5x on any category versus the Freedom Flex is 1x on every category, but it does have those rotating quarterly categories giving you 5x back. And as I mentioned earlier, these are advertised as cashback cards because you do earn the points technically, but they're only redeemable through the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal as cashback. So basically every 100 points that you rack up through the Chase Ultimate portal will equal $1 if you have only these two cards. But then if you add something like the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, then you can actually use those points and not just redeem them for cash back, but you can actually transfer them out to partners as well as use them through the Chase Travel Portal to book flights and hotels as well. And that is what makes up the trifecta. So to go back, you can actually have both the Unlimited and the Flex card, and you can have as many of these as you want, which I'll touch on in a little bit and how to do that. But you do have to choose between having a Chase Sapphire Preferred or a Chase Sapphire Reserve. And I always recommend to people that are first starting out, definitely go for the Preferred card because it is only a $95 annual fee card, and it does kind of offset that effective annual fee because they give you a $50 hotel credit, making it that it is a $45 annual fee effectively. So definitely keep that in mind. Versus the Chase Sapphire Reserve, even though you have a lot more perks added to it, it is a $550 annual fee card, but you do get some additional perks, but the main superpower of these cards is that it allows you to combine your points from your Freedom Unlimited as well as your Freedom Flex and combine it through the Chase Sapphire portal, which allows you to then transfer them out after the fact. And again, the one major fault of the Chase ecosystem is that these categories overlap a ton, so even on the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Reserve card, you're also getting that 3x on dining on both the Reserve and the Preferred card. You're also getting 5x on all air travel booked through the Chase Travel Portal on both the Reserve and the Preferred card. The Reserve card does have the 10x category for hotels through the Chase Travel Portal. It gives you a little bit more, like 10x on Lyft and things like that. Also gives it a bigger perk, as well as the $300 travel credit that you get on a yearly basis, reducing that annual fee to about $250. But again, it is relatively steep, and you do have to be a little bit more in the know in terms of how to use that card to really maximize it at the end of the day. That's why I always recommend start with the Preferred, because you can always product upgrade to the Reserve from the Preferred without having another hard inquiry or having to reapply for another card. Okay, so now that we have this Chase Trifecta, you have all three of these cards. Maybe you went with the preferred or the reserve card, but you definitely have the Freedom Flex and the Unlimited. Now you can start to earn these points and earn Chase Ultimate Reward points, and then transfer the points that you earn from the Freedom Flex and the Unlimited over to your Sapphire cards to then book travel in through the transfer portal as well as through the Chase travel portal, which this is how you end up maximizing it and figuring out all the different categories that it fits. So the first example I'm going to give is using it as just the regular cards from the categorical perspective, right? So when it comes to the Freedom Unlimited, I use that card for anything that isn't inside of the categories like I mentioned. So if you're not using it for dining, if you're not using it for streaming services, if you're not using it for any airfare or air travel or anything booked through the Chase Travel Portal, I'm using this as my catch-all card. So if I'm buying something, let's say at a gas station, if I'm buying something, let's say at a grocery store, if I'm just buying random miscellaneous stuff, maybe at a GameStop for video games or anything online, I'm using the Freedom Unlimited card to earn that 1.5x. So let's, for example's sake, say we spend $1,000 on that card. At a minimum, I'm earning 1,500 points because I'm earning it at that 1.5x category. And then if I move over to the Freedom Flex, this is where the categories start to kind of take into play. One thing to take into consideration here is that you have to physically go into your travel portal and then turn this on every single quarter, but there'll be notifications. I get emails all the time to remind me in order to turn this on. But for instance, we are in quarter 4 right now, so PayPal is one of those categories that earns that 5x per dollar spent up to $1,500 for that quarter, meaning that if I spend that $1,500, instead of earning a measly 1.5x that I would on the Unlimited card, I'm actually earning 5x back, meaning I'm earning 7,500 versus what I would get on the Unlimited, it would be 2,250. And then lastly, let's say that same month I spent $1,000 on dining out. I know it's a lot, but for round number's sake, let's put it that way. That means I'm earning an additional 3,000 points because I'm getting 3x back. And the good thing is, even though it's a good or a bad thing, depending on who you talk to, any of these cards will give you that same amount of points for dining because they all give you 3x back no matter the case. So now we have our 1,500 points from the Unlimited card, we have our 7,500 points from our Flex card, and then we have our 3,000 points from our dining cards, giving us a total of, I believe, 12,000 points. And now another superpower of the Sapphire cards is that you do get an additional bonus when you do book things through the Chase Travel Portal. So for instance, if you have the preferred, you get an additional 25% bonus through the travel portal, and then if you have the reserve card, you get an additional 50% bonus. So the same 12,000 points that we were talking about, if you book anything through the Chase Travel Portal, if you have the preferred card, it'll be worth 15,000 points, and if you have the reserve card, it'll be worth 18,000 points. But again, when I'm actually going out and spending, I'm not really thinking about this too much. I just know which cards to use for which categories, and then at the end of the month, it kind of just all figures itself out, and that's how you're able to maximize it, and that's on a normal basis. Now let's get into that second tier, which is a little bit more advanced, but it starts to be very worth it. So the second example I want to give is going to be stacking points inside of the ecosystem. Like I mentioned, you can stack points outside, like you can tie your cards to the Built Rewards program to get an additional 2x on Lyft rides. You can tie your cards to Rakuten to get even more points back. You can go through the Chase Earn portal and get more points that way, but I'm going to keep it as simple as I can right here to not overcomplicate it. So with the second tier, again, the Chase Freedom Flex card, for instance, gets you 3x back on dining, as well as you have your rotating quarterly categories. So for quarter 4 of 2024, I continue to mention that PayPal is in that 5x category, but technically so is McDonald's, right? So if you want to go to McDonald's, no matter what, you will get 5x back on every dollar spent up to the $1,500. But on top of that, since you get 3x back on dining, those points stack for that quarter, meaning that you get a total of 7x back when you do dine at McDonald's. And then another example is if you do dine, let's say at Panda Express or some fast food places take PayPal as a form of payment. I the other day ordered a Domino's pizza and I checked out through PayPal thinking I was gonna get just 5x back, when in reality, after I checked my statement a few days later, I got a total of 7x back for ordering Domino's, which is something that's relatively unheard of, especially for a 0-fee annual card. And now you might be asking me, Fernando, 5x plus 3x equals 8, not 7. The way that they do this through the Chase Ultimate Reward portal is that even on those bonus categories that get more, your base level is always going to be 1x per dollar spent. Then you get an additional 4, which gives you that 5 for the quarterly categories, giving you 5. And then you get an additional 2 because they're kind of already counting that you have the base layer 1. So that's where you get the 7 as opposed to 8. And then it doesn't really stop there with this situation because let's say you do have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, you're getting an additional 50% boost on those points. So those 7x back that you got from ordering the Domino's and McDonald's now turns into 10.5 points per dollar spent because you can actually use those points through the Chase Travel Portal and get an additional 50%. Same thing goes with the preferred card. Even though it's a little bit less, you get a 25% bonus, which equates to, I believe, around 9x back per dollar spent, or 8.75 to be exact. But again, that is how you maximize it at that second tier. And now I want to give you guys a third example, which is probably the best one and one that goes very overlooked by a lot of people because it's not really explained that it can be done and it's very easy to do. A lot of these Chase Freedom Unlimited and Freedom Flex cards come with some sort of sign-up bonus, right? And what we've been seeing recently is that the sign-up bonuses kind of come in a way of spend category in terms of a boost. So for instance, the Chase Freedom Flex, when I applied for it, it came with a $200 sign-up bonus after spending $500, which is great because that's given to you in the form of Chase Ultimate Reward points, giving you an additional 20,000 points, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Some other ones bring not only that sign-up bonus, but they add an additional grocery and gas category, meaning that you get 5x back on all grocery and gas station spend up to $12,000 in one calendar year, equating to an additional $600 of cash back or 60,000 Chase Ultimate Reward points if you do spend $12,000 in those categories on this card through an entire calendar year. And if you were listening earlier, Q1 of 2024, groceries was a category of the 5x back for the Freedom Flex card, meaning that you can stack this. So let's say you do get the Chase Freedom Flex with that awesome sign-up bonus of 5x back on every dollar spent on groceries, and it's also Q1 of the Freedom Flex giving you an additional 5x back on groceries up to $1,500, meaning that in Q1 of 2024, I was able to accumulate 9x per dollar spent at grocery stores, and groceries is probably one of my bigger categories of spend to begin with, which is absolutely amazing. But it doesn't stop there because we can now go back to the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Reserve and the additional bonuses that you get through booking through their transfer portal. So if you have, let's say, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you get the 9x back plus an additional 25%, which ends up being around 11 points per dollar spent. And then if you have the Reserve, you get the 50% boost, giving you 13.5 points per dollar spent on the grocery category. So think about that. If you do end up spending that $1,500, multiply that by 13.5. If you do some numbers real quick, I'll put it on the screen. That's what you end up getting when it comes to being able to redeem those points through the travel portal. So again, that is how you end up stacking these points over and over again on top of each other, all within the Chase ecosystem, all within the rules of engagement. Like, this isn't anything crazy that's happening. And it happens automatically. As long as you sign up for your rotating quarterly categories every single quarter, and you are in that rare situation where you have a cool sign-up bonus like that, which right now, if you go in branch, these cards are offering this, so definitely take advantage of that. And I will leave some link down below for you guys to check out to see if those sign-up bonuses work for you. But that is how you're able to maximize this. So basically, the Chase Trifecta will cost you $95 a year. Again, we're not talking about the effective annual fee. This is the total annual fee. $95 a year because you get the Chase Sapphire Preferred card at $95, and then you get the Freedom Flex and Freedom Unlimited for $0 a year, meaning that this is one of the most powerful ecosystems because it has amazing transfer partners as well, like Hyatt, like KLM, like Marriott, and a bunch of other ones that I use all the time. And then my final little piece of advice, if you are lucky enough to be in a two-player system, meaning you have a spouse or maybe even a roommate inside of the same household, I would use the refer a second player to earn even additional points and also combine points. So basically, let's say I have the Chase Sapphire Preferred card or even one of these Unlimited and Flex cards. I reach my minimum spend. I'm now past all the point stacking and stuff like that. I can now refer my spouse or a roommate, whoever lives in my household, to apply for the same card. So you get a referral bonus of anywhere between 10 and 20,000 Chase Ultimate Reward points, depending on the card and depending on the bonus that they're giving. And then they also have the opportunity to earn their sign-up bonus, and then they can go through the same thing. And then finally, if you do call into Chase, you do have to call in. This can't be done through the Chase online portal, but it takes literally 30 seconds. You can call them in and then have them connect the accounts, meaning that you can transfer points from one account to the other and then combine all those points and then transfer them out after the fact. So that's how you really fully maximize it at the end of the day. You maximize it by stacking your points within the Chase ecosystem, and then finally referring friends and family that live in the same household to then be able to combine those points and have all this luxurious and awesome travel, or even just free travel at the end of the day. So I know this was a lot of numbers and a lot of mental gymnastics. I tried to make this as easy and as digestible as possible because I don't want people to overthink it. And again, just because I'm kind of explaining this doesn't mean that I'm thinking this way when I am spending. Again, I just make sure that I'm spending with the right categories. For instance, right now with my Freedom Unlimited, I'm working on that grocery sign-up bonus that I mentioned. So I have 5x back on all grocery spend up to $12,000 for an entire year. So that is my grocery card. That's the only thing that I use it for. Then I use my Freedom Flex for right now. I'm using it for the PayPal purchases online for presents and holiday gift guides and things like that. And then I use my Chase Sapphire Reserve for dining and Lyft and things like that, which fits in those categories. And then at the end of the month, I look at everything and then I see how many points I've earned, and it's pretty insane how many points I'm able to earn, even without getting lump sums of sign-up bonuses or referrals or anything like that, because it ends up being relatively easy. And that's what I love about the Chase Trifecta. It's easy, it's inexpensive, anybody can take advantage of it. All you have to do is get approved for these cards and then start to earn these points and ideally end up using them for travel. But definitely let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is this something that you already do? Were you aware that you were able to do this? Were you able to digest all this information? Was it a little too much? I'm always curious to know, and I'm happy to take a few critiques as well. But that'll do it, everybody. I will leave all these linked down below for you guys to check out. It does help the channel out a lot if you do use my referrals to sign up for these cards, but make sure that they are the most competitive ones out there before actually applying them through my link. But that'll do it, everybody. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. And if you want to watch more videos like this one, check out one of these right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace. Whew, that was a whirlwind.